Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know First Block cuts nearly half its workforce, citing AI, as its stock surges over 20% on the news. So we'll discuss why this move signals a major shift in corporate strategy and what it means for the future of tech jobs. Second, Burger King deploys AI to score employee friendliness, crossing a new frontier in workplace surveillance. We'll examine how this algorithmic management clashes with EU policy and what it means for the future of service industry work. Third, the AI boom's thirst for memory chips is creating a smartphone crisis and causing prices to surge. We'll explore how this supply shock could transform the smartphone industry and what it means for low-end Android makers. Fourth, Lenovo's Legion Go Fold concept reveals a shape-shifting gaming handheld that becomes a full Windows laptop. We'll break down this ambitious hybrid device and what it signals for the competitive landscape in portable gaming and computing. Fifth, Nvidia's stock dips as its big tech customers face a cash flow crisis from massive AI spending. We'll analyze why this spending paradox is raising dot-com bust fears and how it could affect the entire AI hardware ecosystem. The story that's kicking things off today begins with a decision that caught everyone by surprise. Jack Dorsey's company, Block, just announced it's cutting nearly half its workforce. And the reason they're giving is an absolute bombshell. Artificial intelligence. A while back, we dug into what we called software Umageddon, AI fears wiping out valuations well beyond software. Today's move is that same shockwave hitting payrolls in public. The company behind Square and Cash App is slashing its headcount from 10,000 employees down to under 6,000. In a letter to shareholders, Dorsey declared that AI fundamentally changes what it means to build and run a company. We previously analysed how investors are now repricing entire business models on exactly that premise, not just in tech, but in sectors like property services. So the thing is, this isn't just about AI magically appearing. The context most people are missing is that many of these tech companies, including Block, grew at an explosive rate. Block's workforce ballooned by over 230% in just 4 years, from around 3,800 people in 2019 to nearly 13,000 in 2023. This raises a big question. Is this purely about AI, or is AI providing a convenient and socially acceptable reason to correct for a period of overhiring? However, what really brought this to a head was Dorsey's stunning prediction. He stated, "Within the next year, I believe the majority of companies will reach the same conclusion and make similar structural changes." He didn't stop there, adding, "I don't think we're early to this realization. I think most companies are late." And the data suggests he might be right. This isn't just a prediction, it's a trend that's already accelerating. The tech industry cut over 200,000 jobs in 2023 and another 80,000 in the first part of this year. Dorsey is essentially signaling that this is just the beginning of a much larger wave of AI-driven restructuring across the entire economy. A while back, we watched the market pre-price this shift outside of big tech. Shares in CBRE plunged 12.5%, JLL nearly 11%, and Cushman and Wakefield over 9% on AI fears, even as they rolled out their own AI strategies. The latest development is CEOs translating that market signal into their org charts. Believe it or not, this isn't happening in a vacuum. Other tech giants are making the same moves. Amazon has cut tens of thousands of jobs. Meta, Microsoft, and Google have all laid off workers while pouring billions into AI. And as we noted before, there's a paradox here. Investors can punish firms. They think AI will hollow out and reward those that move first to rewire themselves around it, suggesting that if companies just wrap generic AI, much of the value flows back to the core model providers. Meta's Mark Zuckerberg painted a clear picture of this new reality, saying, "We're starting to see projects that used to take big teams now be accomplished by a single, very talented person." The core conflict is now crystal clear: a race to replace expensive human teams with hyper-efficient AI. On the ground, this is happening because of powerful AI coding assistants. A single senior engineer using these tools can now write and debug code at a speed that previously required a whole team of junior developers. This is having a devastating effect on the entry-level job market. In fact, one study showed that job postings for junior developers have plummeted by 67% since 2022. As we've discussed, the repetitive data-heavy tasks are getting automated first, and junior coding roles sit right in that zone. Meanwhile, people whose value comes from strategy and relationships, like senior deal makers, retain their leverage for now. The real impact is that it breaks the traditional pipeline for creating future tech talent. If there are no entry-level jobs, where will the next generation of senior engineers come from? Now, get this. After announcing it was firing over 4,000 people and spending up to $500 million to restructure, Block's stock didn't crash. It skyrocketed, jumping over 20%. That mirrors what we've been tracking. Markets are aggressively repricing for AI, punishing business models they think will be automated away, and rewarding leaders who move first to cut costs and reorient around the new tools. If you zoom out, you'll see another layer of strategy at play with that stock jump. Wall Street sees these layoffs not as a failure, but as a victory for efficiency. The market is betting that replacing thousands of salaried employees with AI tools will drastically lower costs and boost profits. This creates a powerful, and some would say dangerous, incentive for CEOs. If you can get a 20% stock bump by announcing AI-driven layoffs, the pressure to do so becomes immense, regardless of the long-term impact on the company or its people. As we flagged earlier, the deeper fear is that if firms are mostly wrapping generic AI, the durable value may accrue to the model providers, raising the stakes for everyone else to prove they can capture enough of the upside. The message from the market is unmistakable. While thousands of tech workers face an uncertain future, Wall Street is aggressively rewarding the strategy of replacing people with code. This signals a profound and permanent shift in how modern companies are built and valued. And on the other side of those pink slips is the infrastructure boom powering it all. Data centers surging even as traditional office construction fades. Different sectors, same story. AI is redrawing where value, capital, and jobs accumulate. We were just talking about AI's role in restructuring corporate teams. Now, let's shift to how it's being used to manage the teams that remain. Burger King is rolling out an artificial intelligence system that listens to its employees and gives them a friendliness score. An AI chatbot nicknamed Patty is now embedded in employee headsets at hundreds of locations. It's not just for checking inventory. The system, powered by OpenAI, has been specifically trained to identify words like please and thank you during drive-through conversations to evaluate staff friendliness. Now, judging friendliness based on keywords is actually incredibly difficult for an AI in a chaotic environment. Research shows that in noisy settings like a drive-through with kitchen sounds and multiple people talking, speech recognition accuracy can drop by 15%. That means roughly 1 out of every 7 words is wrong. Add in regional accents or dialects, and the error rate can jump by another 22%. So the system's ability to accurately capture what's being said, let alone the tone times behind it, is a huge open question. In a promotional video, the bot is heard telling a staff member directly through their headset, the team's friendliness scores this morning were the highest this week. This is a classic example of what's called gamification, turning work into a game with scores and leaderboards. And the research on this presents a fascinating duality. While it can sometimes boost engagement, studies consistently show that this kind of algorithmic management is linked to a major increase in psychological distress and burnout. A recent study found that workers under heavy algorithmic monitoring reported more headaches, musculoskeletal pain, and a nearly 2-fold increase in occupational accidents. The pressure to perform for the algorithm can crush authentic service and turn the job into a source of constant anxiety. This isn't a small experiment. The system, called BK Assistant, is already being piloted in 500 US restaurants. Burger King says the technology is designed to streamline operations and support teams, not to evaluate individual employees. But the company is creating what some call an aggregated data loophole, and it's a crucial distinction. They claim it's a team score, not an individual one. But if a manager can see that the team's friendliness score drops every time a specific employee is at the window, does that distinction really matter? It allows for indirect monitoring and pressure on individual workers, all while giving the company a potential legal shield by claiming they aren't technically scoring individuals. The company stated it believes hospitality is fundamentally human and the technology is there to help staff stay present with guests. But the move has triggered a backlash online, with some social media users calling the surveillance dystopian and questioning the accuracy of AI in judging human interaction. This dystopian label isn't just an emotional reaction, it points to a massive legal and ethical divide. When we place the US approach alongside the European Union's, the contradiction becomes clear. The EU's new AI Act, which is set to take effect, explicitly bans using AI for emotion recognition in the workplace. They've classified it as an unacceptable risk to human rights. Meanwhile, in the US, the legal framework is a patchwork of older laws that weren't designed for this kind of continuous AI monitoring, creating a grey area that companies are now rushing into. This all points to a larger power struggle taking shape in the service industry. And we're seeing Burger King doing this while at the same time, other giants are taking a completely different path. Yum Brands, the parent company of Taco Bell and Pizza Hut, recently announced a partnership with chip giant Nvidia to develop its own AI tools. But it's not a smooth transition for everyone. McDonald's, for example, recently ended its high-profile AI drive-through test with IBM after customers reported widespread issues with order accuracy. They're now pivoting to a new partnership with Google. This race to automate the front line reveals a long-term strategy to increase efficiency, but the road is proving to be very bumpy. This isn't a future concept, it's happening now. Burger King has confirmed that all of its US restaurants are poised to have access to the BK Assistant AI platform by the end of 2026, setting the stage for a new era of AI-monitored customer service. Speaking of the tech giants driving this AI push, their insatiable appetite for hardware is now creating a crisis in a completely different market. Smartphones, the device in your pocket is at the center of a bombshell new report, with one expert calling what's coming a tsunami-like shock that could trigger the biggest decline in its history. We previously warned that this exact kind of shock could be the moment when some mid-tier electronics makers don't make it to the back half of 2026, and today's data puts hard numbers behind that. Warning, the numbers are an absolute gut punch to the industry. According to the International Data Corporation, global smartphone shipments are projected to plummet by a staggering 12.9% in 2026, sinking to a level not seen in over a decade. We've seen this kind of supply chain shock accelerate market changes before. Think back to the 2011 Thailand floods. That disaster wiped out 30% of the world's hard drive production, causing PC shipments to fall by 20% and allowing larger, more resilient companies to consolidate their power. This current memory crisis is following a similar but even more impactful playbook. We previously analysed this as the AI tax, and today's forecast is that squeeze quantified. At the heart of it is a high-stakes power struggle over a single critical component. Memory chips. Tech giants like Meta, Google, and Microsoft are in a frenzy, buying up the available supply to build out their colossal AI data centers. They're prioritising components for higher margin servers, leaving smartphone makers in the lurch. A while back, we walked through how ByteDance reportedly sought bundled guarantees of scarce HBM and DRAM from Samsung, exactly the kind of pre-booked capacity that leaves everyone else scrambling. The AI boom is creating an insatiable appetite for a specific type of memory called high bandwidth memory, or HBM. Research shows that memory manufacturers are retooling their factories to produce this high-margin HBM for AI servers, because that's where the big money is. Projections show AI data centers could consume up to 70% of all high-end memory by 2026. As we noted a while back, that TrendForce projection is now colliding directly with the handset business, turning a supply shift into a full-on market reset. This has created a massive shortage, and that shortage is causing a price explosion. The average selling price for a smartphone is now expected to surge 14% to a record-breaking $523 this year, as companies are forced to pass the cost directly to you. In other words, the AI tax just showed up on your receipt. This changes everything about how we buy phones. As new devices get more expensive, people naturally hold on to them longer. This is already fueling a massive boom in the refurbished smartphone market, which is projected to more than double in size to over $200 billion by 2033. So while new phones get pricier, the market for certified pre-owned devices is set to explode. But this is where the situation takes a more complex turn. This crisis isn't hitting everyone equally. The report states that Apple and Samsung are perfectly positioned to gain market share using their deep pockets to weather the storm. The real victims are the low-end Android manufacturers. They are facing a brutal squeeze, with some expected to struggle or even exit the market entirely. As we've discussed, this is exactly why mid-tier brands running on razor-thin margins and lacking negotiating clout are first in the blast zone. In fact, as Phison CEO warned on TV, companies will be forced to cut product lines, and some won't survive if they can't secure parts. However, if that was just the appetizer, the main course is a fascinating counter-story developing. Some Chinese budget phone makers may have a secret weapon, domestic production. Companies are turning to Chinese memory suppliers like CXMT, which is rapidly scaling up its production with significant government backing. This could create a strategic buffer, allowing these brands to source cheaper components and potentially survive or even thrive in this brutal new landscape. It's also a response to the DRAM oligopoly we broke down a while back, where a few players control the market and have been in no rush to add new capacity. So tapping domestic supply could be a rare pressure valve if it scales. And if you think this is just a temporary blip, think again. A senior research director at IDC says, quote, "The memory crisis will cause more than a temporary decline. It marks a structural reset of the entire market." As we've discussed before, with the big three prioritizing profitability over rapid expansion, this reset isn't going to fade quickly. The fallout is so severe that the entire sub $100 smartphone segment, a category representing 171 million devices, is now projected to become permanently uneconomical. The era of the ultra-budget smartphone is facing extinction. This isn't just about gadgets, it's about global access and equality. For millions of people in emerging markets across Africa and South Asia, that sub $100 smartphone is their only gateway to the internet, their access to education, banking, and healthcare. With the average price of even entry-level phones in Africa already jumping 57% in the last year, the death of the budget phone threatens to widen the digital divide, potentially leaving the world's most vulnerable populations disconnected. While the mainstream smartphone market is facing a major squeeze, innovation in portable devices is far from dead. In fact, you could say it's getting even more ambitious. Imagine a gaming handheld that literally unfolds to become a full-blown Windows laptop. Leaked images reveal Lenovo is developing a shape-shifting device called the Legion Go Fold, and it's a radical new take on portable tech. The technology that makes this flexibility possible, POLED or plastic organic light emitting diode, also introduces some serious durability questions, especially for a gaming device. Think about it. A gaming handheld endures constant vibrations, sustained heat, and far more folding and unfolding than a typical phone. Independent stress tests on similar foldable devices have shown that the hinge mechanism can show signs of fatigue after about 144,000 folds. That's a lot, but it's still below what some manufacturers claim. And it means the mechanics are under incredible stress. This isn't just about a folding screen. It's a device with 4 distinct personalities. It starts as a compact 7.7-inch handheld. Then you can unfold its POLED display to a massive 11.6 inches for a more immersive experience, snap on a keyboard, and it morphs into a laptop. You can even use the display in a vertical split screen mode. The versatility is the entire point. But this do-everything approach comes with inherent risks. These kinds of Swiss Army knife devices often struggle with making compromises in every mode. For example, we've seen versatile 2-in-1s like the Surface Pro series that are great for productivity but often disappoint when it comes to serious gaming due to performance limits and heat. The big question is whether Lenovo can deliver an experience that excels in all 4 modes without feeling like a compromise, especially given the premium price a device like this will surely command. But that's not the whole picture. The controllers themselves are also convertible. The right side controller can be used as a vertical mouse in a special FPS mode, a direct challenge to features seen on the Legion Go 2, and even the rumoured Nintendo Switch 2. That same controller has its own built-in display for performance metrics that also doubles as a touchpad. This controller as a mouse feature isn't just a gimmick. It's shaping up to be the next battleground for handheld innovation. The goal is to give players the precision of a mouse for first-person shooters, something a thumbstick can't quite match. However, reviews for this feature on the existing Legion Go are mixed, with some users finding it a bit cumbersome. Interestingly enough, Nintendo has also filed patents for its next console that show a similar idea, suggesting we are watching a race to see who can perfect this new way of playing. And if you think this is just a gimmick, the rumoured specs are serious. The Legion Go Fold is said to pack an Intel Core Ultra 7 CPU and a staggering 32 gigabytes of RAM. That isn't just handheld power, that's serious laptop performance packed into a device that fits in your hands. Lenovo's choice to go with Intel here is a huge strategic pivot. For years, AMD's chips have dominated the handheld gaming space because of their raw graphics power. While the competing AMD chip might deliver slightly higher frame rates in some games, this specific Intel Core Ultra 7 chip is built for incredible power efficiency. This means potentially much longer battery life, Lenovo is betting that for a portable, all-in-one device, a better balance of performance and battery life is more important than raw power alone. While Lenovo is expected to announce this as a concept device at Mobile World Congress, the message to the market is already crystal clear. Announcing a concept device is as much a strategic move to challenge competitors like Asus and Samsung as it is a promise of a real product. Companies like Lenovo often use these big tech shows to float futuristic ideas. Some, like their solar-powered laptop concept, showcase a future direction. But others, like the Lenovo Skylight SmartBook from 2010, were announced and then cancelled before ever reaching consumers. This announcement forces everyone else to show their hand. The lines between handheld gaming, tablets, and laptops are being erased. The Legion Go Fold isn't just a new product concept. It's a statement of intent that could completely redefine the future of portable computing. That kind of hardware innovation in the Legion Go Fold ultimately relies on powerful chips. And speaking of chips, the undisputed king of AI, Nvidia, just posted a monster earnings report. So why did its stock immediately tank? The answer isn't about Nvidia. It's about their biggest customers and a single statistic that might just change your entire perspective on this boom. The tech giants, the so-called hyperscalers like Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta, are projected to spend a combined $700 billion this year, much of it on Nvidia's chips. A while back, we flagged that Amazon alone was preparing to spend up to $200 billion on AI, a big piece of that $700 billion figure. We also noted that industry-wide AI capex had already raced past the peak of the Apollo program. Today's projection just steepens that curve. But that spending spree is putting immense pressure on their own finances. This level of spending is historically unprecedented. We're talking about capital expenditure that is on track to consume nearly 100% of these companies' operating cash flows. The 10-year average was just 40%. So where is all this money coming from? Much of it is debt. In just 1 year, these tech giants issued over $120 billion in corporate bonds to fund this AI arms race, a massive jump from their 5-year average of $28 billion. As we've discussed before, GPUs age out in 1 to 3 years, so the payback window is brutally short, one reason that debt load is making investors twitchy. They are quite literally betting the house on AI. Wall Street estimates show Meta's free cash flow is modeled to fall a staggering 86%. Alphabet's is projected to drop 64%, and Amazon is expected to have negative free cash flow. We previously analysed Amazon's walled garden push with Rufus driving extra sales and moves to block outside shopping agents. That's real traction, but stacked against this cash burn, it may not be enough yet to calm Wall Street. They are burning through cash just to keep up. This dynamic is eerily similar to the dot-com bust of the late 90s. Back then, telecom companies spent billions overbuilding a fiber optic network on the promise of future profits that took years to materialize, leading to a massive market crash. Remember when Amazon telegraphed that massive AI spend, the market initially lopped roughly $450 billion off its value, a reflex that echoes those late 90s overbuild fears. Today, the spending on AI infrastructure is so intense it surpasses the dot-com peak, and some investors are getting nervous about history repeating itself. This brings us to the core conflict, rattling investors. Can these companies keep buying if they aren't seeing the profits to justify it? But Nvidia's CEO, Jensen Huang, just went on the record with a direct counterattack. He's confident in his customers, stating simply, in this new world of AI, compute is revenues. This message, as we've noted, clearly favors the philosophy of turning compute directly into growth, even if it means high risk, full stack control. Now, this is a powerful sales pitch, but is it actually true? The evidence is mixed. While some companies are seeing returns, a recent MIT study found that a shocking 95% of enterprise AI pilot projects fail to deliver a measurable profit and loss impact. This is why some are opting for partnerships to spread risk, even as others double down on owning the stack to chase outsized returns. And if you think this is just a showdown between Nvidia and its biggest clients, you're missing the real story. While everyone watches the giants, Nvidia is diversifying. Hyperscalers now account for just over half of its data center revenue. New powerful customers like Anthropic and OpenAI are blossoming, creating a new foundation for growth. A few days ago, we mentioned reports that Nvidia is exploring a roughly $30 billion equity investment in OpenAI. It's a sign Nvidia isn't just supplying chips, It's tightening the vendor-customer loop by becoming an owner where it counts. The other half of that revenue, after all, reveals a massive global trend. A huge piece of this new business is coming from what's called sovereign AI. This is where entire countries are buying thousands of Nvidia's chips to build their own national AI infrastructure, independent of the big tech companies. This category alone brought in over $30 billion for Nvidia last year, a threefold increase. This all leads to a high-stakes paradox. The tech giants are locked in a battle where they are afraid to stop spending, even if it hurts. It's a classic prisoner's dilemma. If one company stops buying chips to save money, its rivals will race ahead in AI, potentially making them irrelevant. They have no choice but to buy the chips, and Nvidia knows it. And unlike past arms races, Nvidia is playing multiple angles at once, selling to hyperscalers, backing breakout platforms, and powering sovereign AI. So in this gold rush, Nvidia isn't just selling the shovels, it's taking a stake in the claim and, in some cases, selling the entire mine.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.